Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
The following is independently produced programming. The views and opinions expressed are those of the producers and do not reflect the views and opinions of Falls Area Community Television, our staff, or board of directors.
Secrets in the shadows, lost and found. Truth in every echo, loud and clear. Keep on with the long road, no more fear. In the halls of power, whispers grow. Every secret crack beneath the undertone. Honest stories hidden in the glass. On this long road, in the truth we trust.
Welcome to The Long Road. I'm your host, Kris Roberts. And I'm going to be more frank today. Because one of the things that popped in my mind, the ironic part is 250 years ago, America was ending a long war because King George III had no problem taxing the British colonies to help fund his wars around the world as the United Kingdom tried to stretch its domination over the world. And so today, in 2026, 250 years from now, the American people are being taxed without their authority, without their approval, to fund wars overseas. So President Trump, or some will say King Trump, has decided that they want to expand their power over the world. Hey, I attacked Venezuela, and this was really well. I'm embargoing Cuba. This is working really well. So I'm going to put a new regime in Venezuela. It's only going to be a matter of time before I put my new regime. Maybe Marco Rubio will be taking over Cuba. Hey, we want to take over Canada, make it the 51st state. We want to take over Greenland. You're either going to sell it to us or we're going to take it. And then, hey, what the heck? Bingo, we'll do regime change in Iran. This stuff is all easy. What's the problem at all? It just goes that quick. We as a country are so powerful, we can get what we want and no one can stop us. Well, you know, if you ever study history, the art of war, the five rings, the prince, Clausewitz, and other ones, there's a simple thing. Two things. You have to have a defined objective, and you don't go to war. You do not initiate a war unless you know you can win. Well, in the 21st and 20th century, and up into the 21st century, United States hasn't been very good at following those centuries, in some cases millennium-own fundamental truisms. No, we have done a lot based on what was going to be financially well for us, or the fact that we can intimidate the other side in just quitting. Well, didn't work out too well in the Philippines. Didn't work too well out in Korea. Didn't work too well out in Vietnam, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Chile, Iran, but we have Iraq, we have Afghanistan, we have Syria, we've been into Lebanon, we have Libya. Well, there was one person, General Schwarzkopf, who followed the Powell Doctrine. You wait. We had an objective, and that objective was to get Iraq out of Kuwait. Okay? Number 2, you do not go to war unless you know you can win. And so, what did General Schwarzkopf do? They built up an army, a coalition that were hundreds of thousands strong. They were ready. They had a great battle plan, and the war was over in 4 days. But what do we have now? We have a dumb war. And we do not know how to get out of it. We're kind of in this situation with Richard Nixon and Kissinger. We want peace. We want peace with honor. We do not want a peace with our tail between our legs, because we're the most powerful country in the world, and we cannot be defeated by second, third, and fourth rate powers. It just is not acceptable to us. We will find a way to reward things just so we can look good. And so, in the 21st century, America has fought some really, really dumb wars. All the way back to Nicaragua and some of the other countries in Central America, because the banana company wanted to keep producing bananas so they could sell in the United States. And the Mayans and other native people in Guatemala and Nicaragua said, no, we don't want to give up our land. But I think in the last 125 years, there has been, like I said, a lot of dumb wars. There's been few wars like World War II and World War I. That had to be fought. World War II had to be fought. The war we're in now, the attack that the United States and Israel put on Iran, is a dumb war. It's an unnecessary war, and it's a dumb war. And it was a war started by a person who thought he had the ability basically to control the world. He had a secretary of war who thought, oh, We bombed them last year in 12 days. So they, you know what? We bomb like this. We do 10, 15,000 airstrikes between us and Israel, and they'll capitulate right off the bat. All we have to do is kill the head of the snake. Cut off the head of the snake. The people will rise up, and bingo, we have a new Iran. Hey, I didn't see any senior leaders resigning, not like the admiral down in the fleet, Southern Command, because he knew this was wrong and he couldn't go. But we had a number of people who says, wow, this is going to go really quick and we'll go along because it will enhance my career. We had other individuals, man, we want to go fight. We want to go this. We want to do that. This is going to be great. It's just like the Boston Celtics playing the Keene High basketball team. It was going to be that easy. Well, it hasn't turned out that easy. Well, what happened? You killed the supreme leader of Iran. You killed his wife. You killed his family. Then you got his son. You hurt his son. You killed the son's wife, and you killed the son's children. You know what? Then you kill a lot of 7 to 12-year-old girls that were going to school. The number fluctuates, some were over 100. Oh, it was a mistake. No big deal. And so people in Congress, Lindsey Graham, and yeah, this is really good. This is going to be so easy. Who cares if we kill a lot of the Iranians? They're just Muslims. Who cares? This is going to be great. And Israel says, hey, this is really good. Donald Trump is going to give us a lot of military might, American military might, to allow us to attack and expand more control over the Middle East. And guess what? This is going to be great. Hardly any of our people are going to die. We're going to be in not very much risk. The United States is going to be dumb enough to do most of the stuff for us. If we run out of bullets and missiles and stuff, the United States will give a lot more to us. And we'll probably get most of them free. Okay? So we have right now from the New Republic, they're kind of in the middle. And the title goes, Let's Hope America's Dumbest War Doesn't Become Its Most Tragic. Vietnam War was a pretty tragic war. Over 50,000 Americans were killed. Hundreds of thousands were wounded, some serious. A lot came back with PTSD and other life-altering conditions. That was an extremely tragic war. Afghanistan. Over 2,000 Americans were killed in Afghanistan. Again, another tragic war. The invasion of Iraq in 2003 ended up being 8 years of tragedy. And I think over 6,000 Americans were killed. Those were all tragic wars. Now, let's hope America's dumbest war doesn't become its most tragic. as we barrel toward the 9th week of this 2 to 3 week war, a war that's been won. Then we have a treaty, a truce, and it's won back and forth. The war is over at any time. Who knows? No one wants to stand up and tell the truth. The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff doesn't want to stand up and say the truth because he doesn't want to lose his job. Because he knows if he says something, Mr. President, we're losing. We're running out of ammunition, okay? And we can't really go into a ground invasion because we would lose hundreds, if not thousands, of life. You don't see the Commandant, the Marine Corps, the Chairman of the Chief of Staff of the Navy or the Army. They're quiet as can be. Okay, why? Their job is to tell the truth. Congress, oh, no, we can't do a war resolution. You're supposed to do it within 60 days. But the president goes and says, hey, we got a truce. So the 60-day clock is stopped. But wait a minute. United States is firing on the Iranians and the Iranians are firing back. U.S. aircraft has been shot down. But, when bullets are flying back and forth, that's pretty hard to get someone to convince the war is over with. You're in combat. What's happening? And they go like this. Imagine you're the mayor of a town where there were acute ethnic and racial tensions, and you take an office and you inherit a fragile truce. Well, you know what? You're the mayor and you don't like the truth, so you rip up the truth and say, nope, we're not having the truth anymore. Then, guess what happens? There's no truth. Then the tensions go up. Everything blows up. The parties of the truth are at each other. You got damage going on. And you're the mayor. So what are you going to do? You got a war going on inside your city. You got to ask the governor to send in National Guard people in to put a truce in. And normally, how do you solve that? You go after the minority and try to eliminate as much of the minority as possible to get things back to a calm. How long do you think the truth is going to last? How long do you think the minority is going to put up with it? Hey, isn't that what President Trump did the first time around? There was a truce between the United States, 5 countries, with Iran. Okay? That deal with the truth in there, Iran could not enrich its uranium past 3.67%. 3.67. So Iran agreed no more than 4%, rounding up. And that deal was until 2030. President Trump in his first term says, oh, that was Obama's deal, so anything Obama did, after all, he's a black man, and no, it gotta go. So he rips up the truth. Congress said nothing. No one else. And so what happened? Oh, the truth said Iran would never go above 4%. So after Donald Trump rips it up, Iran is free and Iran goes to 60%. So who is the cause of Iran going from 3.67 to 60%? Donald Trump. Because anything that President Obama was awarded or President Obama put his name on, Donald Trump hates. Why do you think Donald Trump goes and says, hey, I solved 8 wars. And because of those solving 8 wars, bringing peace to those 8 wars, oh, I should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Because Obama got it. By 2002, Trump withdrew from the agreement in May 2018. And by 2020, Iran is now enriching more uranium than it did before it agreed to the landmark deal with the world powers in 2015 to 60%. So Iran had this and could only go to 3.67. Donald Trump in 2018 said rips up the deal, and Iran's amount of uranium goes like this, and then it goes up to 60%. Okay. So 8 years, Trump made the problem. 8 years later, he comes back to tell us, bad Iran, they broke the terms of the deal. They're too strong. We must invade them. Iran did not break the terms of the deal. President Trump ripped up the deal. So we got a deal, and one partner says, I'm ripping up the deal and I'm setting my own rules over here. I'm the other partner, and I'm going, wait a minute, I stand to lose everything. I have to protect myself. So they go up. And before we go a little bit farther and people go, hey, I'm pro-Iran. No. What's happened since 1979 onward is not justifiable. I was on the LPH-9 USS Guam with BLT-18 in the Mediterranean when the Iranians took over the embassy. So for a while, we did not know if we were going to have to go in and take out those hostages. So, no, Iran is not a nice country. The people are. The leaders, no. They got some good leaders, but the religious leaders, no. Because it's actually worse. We did not invade Iran because they broke the terms of the deal. We invaded Iran because Trump, having conquered in his mind America, needed to conquer further reaches. Venezuela got him thinking, hey, this war is kind of fun. So he figured he'd be the guy who toppled the hatred regime. A few bombs, easy peasy. A key factor is Trump having conquered in his mind America. Yes, because Congress capitulated to him. The Democrats were arguing over some little minor things. they were looking at these little skirmishes while Trump and these other ones were waging a war and winning the war. The Democrats, may have won a few scrimmages, but they lost the war. They did not stand up. They were unwilling to go down fighting. All they wanted to do was to save their butts, to save their jobs. They wanted to be titled as a congressman, a congresswoman, a senator. Look back over the last year, even look back over the last 9 weeks. Show me a congressman, a congresswoman, or a senator. I think there's one, maybe two, that have been willing to stand up to the president and tell the president he's wrong. I think it's Congressman Massey of Kentucky who really pushed and got the law passed to release the Epstein files. And it's amazing how the president loves going to war since, the Epstein files were supposed to be released. Okay. The president went to war because he felt and he was convinced by Netanyahu that we take out all these leaders, Iran would capitulate, fall, the people would revolt against the people in power, and good, we have a totally different country. The people in Iran are pretty smart. They saw what happened to Libya. They saw what happened to Iraq. They saw what happened to Syria. They saw what happened to Lebanon. And they're going, ooh, when the United States is going in for a regime change, things haven't worked out very well. And then when it gets really bad, the United States is out of town, leaving us to pick up the pieces. And so at first the rationale was regime change and it took out the supreme leader. Trump probably thought, well, that's it. But that just handled everything to the supreme leader's son, who was even more radical than his father, whose father, wife, and son were killed by U.S. bombs. So when it became clear, even to Trump, that the regime wasn't going to change, he said the new rationale for the war was nuclear weapons. Well, it's a fine rationale. I agree with it. In fact, there's a little problem with it. Namely, Iran is today a hell of a lot closer to nuclear weapons than it was in 2015. So Trump, who created the problem, now tells us he may have to solve it by eliminating the Persian civilization, one of the great civilizations in the history of mankind. Those last 47 years haven't even been a blink in the eye of human history, notwithstanding. And it goes, the United States has fought a lot of dumb and unnecessary wars, and it's fought a lot of wars that cost more lives than this one has so far. But this one has to be the most unnecessary war in American history. And now here we sit, the whole world nervously watching the President of the United States whom everyone in every capital around the globe knows to be impulsive and ignorant and concerned mainly with his vanity, wondering what he will do next, hoping that the Americans' most unnecessary war doesn't also become its most tragic. So, we know he's impulsive. We know he's ignorant about a lot of things. And he's worrying about his vanity. Everybody in the world knows it. But it seems people in the United States are blind to it, or they don't want to address it, or they're too scared to show moral courage, too scared to maintain their integrity. Okay? So, the war is costing money. The Secretary of War says he'll ask what he needs when he needs it. Some people say, well, maybe $200 billion over. Well, you're paying basically you're paying $1 trillion to the Department of Defense when you factor in other things. And now you want 200. So we're saying is we got $1 trillion, but that $1 trillion that we're paying is not for us to go to war or whatever. So if we have to go to war, you have to come with extra money. So, how does Donald Trump expect to pay for it? And who does he expect to pay for it? You and I. Hey, if you own stock in one of the big military complex things, you're making a lot of money. Your share value is going up. Your dividend is going up. So, not much has been said about Donald Trump's 2027 budget. And, June, July, August, September, 4.5 months before they're supposed to have a new budget. And what does he say? Donald Trump doesn't care about the November elections. He doesn't care about the Republicans who pipe-piped around him. He cares about Donald Trump increasing his wealth, increasing his family's wealth. Trump is peering over the edge of electoral cliff come November with the likely possibility he will drag the country and the world into a completely avoidable and self-made economic crisis before then, all as the public seeds over the neglect of their core concern of affordability. You know how Donald Trump says affordability, that's just one of those Democratic woke statements. What's affordability? Well, to him, there's no such thing as affordability because he can afford everything. He'll tell you, I can afford everything. That's why I gave up my salary for being president of the United States. And if I can afford to give up my salary, there is no affordability crisis. Well, let's take a deep dive into the 2027 budget. The head of the Office of Management and Budget Director, he's anti-government. He's really, really libertarian and saying, hey, the government really shouldn't be paying for anything except national defense, some of those things. So the budget says, hey, we need to increase the military budget by 44%, or up to $1.5 trillion. So Okay, that's $500 billion. How are we going to cover that $500 billion? But when you look at the thing, this year's budget for the defense is more than the next 5 countries combined. The 1.5 will be more, will be twice the amount the next five countries spend. So if we spend 1.5, the next 5 countries will spend $750 billion compared to our $1.5 trillion. So here's some of the stuff that will go. Okay, to help pay for that, there's a $4 billion program that helps low income afford their energy bills. Gone. Okay, low income people, you know, the ones that help them, the heating and electrical, gone, don't need that. Cuts tens of millions of dollars worth of renewable energy programs. Hey, renewable energy, that's woke. That's Obama. That's Biden. We do not need renewable energy. China, England, Scotland, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, as countries around the world are increasing renewable energy. Here in the United States, we're told that we got so much coal, we got so much oil, we don't have to do any of that renewable. $400 million for homeless assistance. Hey, if they're homeless, it's because their fault. Okay, you ever see trying to pay rent for a 600 square foot place? Oh, 1,400 is not that much, not that out of the limit. 529 million. This is specific. $529 million that is used to help poor or homeless people who have HIV. Oh, sorry, HIV, we're not going to help you at all. You got to hopefully survive on your own. Hopefully you can pay for your own medication. Hopefully you can find a place. If not, so sad, we're not helping. $234 million from worker protection agencies. Oh, you have a problem with your boss or the place you work for? Oops, sorry. The president decided we needed that money to help pay for the defense. $4.2 billion for electric vehicle chargers to make it an inconvenience as possible to buy an electric vehicle. Again, that's woke. We do not have to have electrical vehicles. You get to see how many electrical vehicles are in China. Far more than the United States. Because China says, well, you know what? We do not want to have to depend on oil from other places. We do not want to put ourselves in that position. Norway is almost all electric vehicles, and they produce oil. Yes. Also, $500 million for public transit. Sorry, you poor people inside, you can't afford a car, you're going to go bus or train. Sorry, we're taking $500 million out. $659 million from the Department of Agriculture that funds local projects in poor rural areas. Keene is a poor rural area. Most of Cheshire County is a poor rural area. A lot of the people that live in Midwest are poor rural areas. Okay. Farm to table, we're not going to fund that. $449 million worth of programs by an Economical Development Administration that pays for a variety of projects in economically struggling areas. Oh, that's Keene. Wait a minute. $500,000 where we took the old store and made the Lane Hotel. Some money we also took a grant for the co-op, a grant to help build the Marriott. Okay, we've given grants. Did we able to get them? The one we just got was the one for Roosevelt School that's building housing from there. The one down on Marlborough Street, $500,000 to help those. Those grants are going to be cut. Okay? So we can say, hey, we're here in Keene. We don't have to worry about that. We're not paying much for the war. So if we lose $1 million worth of grants, if we lose $10,000, $20,000 worth of food subsidies, we're paying. $386 million to clean up a military weapon program and military bases. So like, hey, yeah, we're spending, so next year we plan on spending $1 million to continue cleaning up Camp Lejeune and its water. Sorry. Nope, it ain't happening. All of these cuts will be lazily justified as an attack on woke and wasteful programs. The same reasoning they use to get rid of hundreds of thousands of people and slash Medicare and food stamps, to name a few. Give you an example, Marco Rubio said, imagine Iran that instead of spending their wealth, billions of dollars supporting terrorism or weapons, had spent the money helping the people of Iran. What happens if the United States said, hey, this extra $500 billion that we plan on spending on weapons and wars, we're going to spend on helping the American people, and imagine what would happen to this country. Better health care, better schools, better roads. Okay. The other thing, the president quoting the president, we are fighting wars. We do not take care of daycare. It's not possible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on the federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. So, daycare, subsidies, Medicaid, all those, all these problems, that's not my problem. Those are the state's problems. Okay, if he pushes them down to the state, that means the state will give less funding to the municipalities. You hear about all these people complaining about the state pushing more and more obligations down to the local level and causing taxes to go up. You haven't seen nothing yet, as they would say. He goes, as he was getting on the plane to go to China Tuesday, if Americans' financial situations motivated him to strike a deal with Iran, Trump said, not even a little bit. I don't think about Americans' financial situations. I don't think about anybody. I think only about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. Well, look at it this way. North Korea has nuclear weapons. North Korea states the only way I'm going to use a nuclear weapon is if someone tries to assassinate their president. North Korea has saw, look at the countries that voluntarily gave up their desire to attain nuclear weapons. Common thing, they've all been attacked. Even Ukraine, the United States convinced Ukraine to give up the nuclear weapons, and Ukraine was attacked. The White House communication director says, the president's ultimate responsibility is the safety and security of Americans. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. If action wasn't taken, it'd have one which threatened all Americans. You're saying is if Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would attack the United States. The United States and Russia had over 10,000 nuclear weapons. They knew if they launched an attack, the other one would launch the attack back, and it was cause mutual mass destruction. If you launched a nuclear weapon, you would be totally destroyed. Now, Trump wants to eliminate or postpone or pause the gas tax and the diesel tax. Congress has to approve it, but because the prices have gone up, he says, you know what, we need to do that. Well, that says if you pause the gas tax and the diesel tax, that means the federal government will get $500 million a week less. Okay, that $500 million goes into the highway fund to fix roads. And so say this goes on for 6 months. So hey, you can easily about $25 billion will not go into the highway trust fund. And where is the money going to come to replace that when it comes time to building roads? So there is no free lunch here. You cause the prices to go up, and now you want to look good by reducing the the taxes. But then again, you're taking the money away from the roads. Another thing is, just because the federal government says, okay, we're going to take out this $20 per gallon tax, I'm just rounding it off. Okay, does that mean Cumberland Farms is going to reduce the cost of gas by 20 cents? No, there's no requirement. They can say, hey, this is really good. The Trump has repeatedly said the U.S. has military defeated Iran. Secret U.S. intelligence assessments indicate Iran still has operational access to 30 of its missile sites along the Straits of Hormuz. And as we have this, Trump doesn't know what to do. We're going to do this. Iran is no dummy. They're repairing their damaged equipment. Despite U.S.-Israeli bomb disseminating Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps rank and killing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, the regime remains in place with Khamenei's son. The regime appears willing to fight to the end, even as millions of Iranians face a collapsing economy and thousands were killed in the war. The war has already begun hitting Americans in their wallet from the first day. Gas prices have gone up. Mortgage rates are climbing. Inflation came out 3.8% and has driven up the cost of oil and shipping, which is risk global recession. And what has Trump achieved for the billions of dollars spent and countless lives lost, mostly innocent civilians? He has replaced Khamenei with Ayatollah Khamenei. You replace this old guy that could be dying at any time with a much younger radical guy. Okay, despite what people like to think and say, oh yeah, the prime rate is 3.5%. The prime rate has nothing to do with what you pay on your mortgage. What counts is the 10-year bond yield. The 10-year bond is creeping, and last time I looked at it, it was 4.46. That's the 10-year bond because that's what they look for when they're looking for the 30-year mortgage. And if that bond keeps going up, so are mortgages. And if you want to go online, www.iran-course-ticker.com. Iran-course-ticker.com. I printed this off at 11 o'clock this morning, 11:14 actually. And at that time, the estimate cost of the war since the United States launched the attack in February, it was $79,768,349,351. We've been, quote unquote, at that time, since the first missile bomb dropped, we've been at war for 74 days, 11 hours, 14 minutes, 25 seconds for something that was supposed to take 21 days or less. To give you an example, just throw it out. The war cost $11,574 per second. The per hour cost is $41,666. Oh, that's the million. It costs $41,666,000 per hour. $1 million per day. And so it is just going. The troops, what is it going to have an effect? What is it going to cost? You're paying extra for the troops, but how many troops, when they get back home, say, I had enough and quit, and you have the cost of retraining all their replacements? Okay. In the 74 days since the war was initiated, the American public, you, I, have spent $10.94 billion on gas. That extra gas. So when you look at that gas, just think of it. $10.94 billion extra on gas. What could we have done with that $10.94 billion? Okay, that $10.9 billion, say $11 billion, has resulted in lost opportunity capacity for Americans. If you're going out there spending $100 extra a month for gas, that may mean you can't go visit. You can't afford the gas to go visit your family member. You can't afford certain high quality foods, okay? Or because you're on such a tight budget, it has to go on a credit card, and you may be paying 25-30% a year. So you pay $100, put it on the credit card, and you don't pay it off the course of the year. At the end of the year, it's $130. Consumer spending on diesel, $10 billion extra. A lot of that diesel is getting food and other stuff into the store. And so far, the American consumer has spent over $21 billion for nothing. $21 billion for nothing. $21 billion just to do what they were doing in the beginning of February. Just think of that. And the number keeps continuing. How is it going to affect you going forward? Like I said, inflation is 3.8, and we haven't even gotten to the war inflation. We are all paying, and we're paying much higher than we ever thought.